In the late 16th century, on the edge of a vast unmapped world, over 100 people vanished without a trace. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no clear explanation, just a single word carved into wood. CROATOAN. To understand how something like this could happen, you have to go back to a time when the world itself still felt unfinished. The year was 1587. England was no longer content watching Spain dominate the New World. It wanted a foothold of its own, a permanent colony, a gateway to power, wealth, and influence across the Atlantic. So they sent settlers, men, women, children, not soldiers, not conquerors, but families. They arrived on a small, isolated island off the coast of what is now North Carolina, a place surrounded by dense forests, unpredictable waters, and a land they did not understand. This place would come to be known as the Roanoke colony. At the center of it all was John White, an artist, a map maker, and now a governor responsible for keeping over 100 lives alive in an unforgiving environment. With him was his daughter, and soon his granddaughter. Her name was Virginia Dare. She would become the first English child ever born in the New World, a symbol of hope, a sign that this fragile colony might actually survive. But hope doesn't last long in a place like Roanoke. From the beginning, the colony struggled. The land was unfamiliar, food sources were unreliable, and relations with nearby native tribes were tense, fragile, unpredictable. Every decision mattered. Every mistake had consequences. The settlers were not prepared for how difficult survival would be. Supplies ran low, hunger grew, and fear quietly settled in. As weeks turned into months, the situation became desperate. The colonists needed help. Not later, not eventually, now. So, once again, they turned to the one man who could change their fate, John White. They asked him to return to England, to bring back supplies, reinforcements, anything that could keep the colony alive. It was a risk. Leaving them meant abandoning them, even if only temporarily. But staying meant slow collapse. So White made the decision. He would go. Before he left, he made an agreement with the settlers. If they were forced to leave, they would carve the name of their destination into something visible. And if they were in danger, they would add a cross. A simple system, a final line of communication in case everything went wrong. Then he sailed, back across the Atlantic, back to England. And that's when everything fell apart. Because as White arrived, England was no longer at peace. War had begun with Spain. Ships were no longer used for exploration, but for battle. Resources were redirected. The ocean itself became a battlefield, and White was trapped. He couldn't return, not in months, not even in a year. Time stretched. 1 year passed, then another, and another. 3 years. 3 years with no contact. 3 years where the colony was left completely alone, in a land that had already proven it could break them. You have to imagine what that felt like. No resupply, no communication, no certainty that help was ever coming, only survival or failure. Finally, in 1590, White secured passage. He crossed the Atlantic once more, carrying supplies, hope, and the weight of everything he might have lost. As his ship approached the island, nothing seemed out of place. From a distance, Roanoke looked the same, but as he stepped onto land, something was wrong. There was no movement, no voices, no smoke from fires, just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but abandoned. White walked through the settlement, and what he found made no sense. The colony was gone, not destroyed, not burned. Gone. The houses were no longer standing, but they hadn't been wrecked either. They had been carefully taken apart, piece by piece, as if the settlers had planned their departure, as if they had time, as if they had chosen to leave. There were no bodies, no signs of violence, no evidence of a fight. It was as if over 100 people had simply disappeared into the air. And then he saw it, carved into a wooden post. CROATOAN. Nearby, carved into a tree. CRO. It was the only clue they had left behind. CROATOAN. The name of a nearby island. The home of a native tribe. At first, it seemed like an answer. Maybe the colonists had relocated. Maybe they had found refuge. Maybe they had survived by becoming part of something else. But if that was true, why was there no trace? Why no records? Why no clear evidence that they ever lived there? Other theories began to emerge, darker ones, possibilities that pointed toward violence. Perhaps conflict with local tribes had escalated. Perhaps rival European forces had discovered the colony. A silent attack. A complete erasure. But again, there were no signs. No weapons, no destruction, no bodies. Nothing that matched the aftermath of a massacre. And then there is the theory of desperation, that the colonists facing starvation abandoned Roanoke and moved inland into unfamiliar territory, searching for food, for safety, for survival. And in doing so, vanished into the wilderness, lost to time. But even that doesn't fully explain what was found, because there was no cross, no mark of distress, no signal that they had been forced to leave, which leads to a chilling possibility that whatever happened was not chaos, not panic, but a decision, a collective choice made by an entire colony to leave everything behind and walk into the unknown. And then nothing. No confirmed sightings. No remains ever discovered. No definitive answers. Just a mystery, frozen in time. Over 100 men, women, and children erased from history. And a single word left behind like a whisper from the past. CROATOAN. So, what really happened to the lost colony of Roanoke? Did they adapt and become part of another world? Did they fall, one by one, far from where anyone would ever find them? Or is the truth something else entirely? Something we haven't even considered? Because sometimes the most haunting mysteries are not the ones with no clues, but the ones that leave just enough behind to make us believe we were never meant to solve them.